I didn't want to do it at first, and they'd been after me to do one for about 2 years. And I thought, well, there's going to be 22,000 people there, so we can throw in some new songs maybe and everything. But as it turned out, we didn't. We played all old songs, and they just sort of stared at us. And it was a strange experience, really. It was about 6 months ago.
Crash and rumors flew together. The night Ricky Nelson's plane went down in 1985. The headlines shouted that the once golden rocker was flat broke and drowning in debt. Reporters hammered the story of emptied bank accounts and unpaid bills. Nelson's messy divorce, they said, had swallowed a cool million and left collectors howling for cash. Rumor mills kept spinning. Friends whispered that bounced checks and repossessed guitars were proof the legend was tapped out. That divorce bill hit like a hammer. $1 million vanished in fees at a time, when a new family car cost less than 10 grand. Then a single sheet of paper changed everything. Ricky's brother unearthed a forgotten will, and the family lawyer nearly dropped in shock. That hidden document opened a courtroom earthquake. Records revealed labels skimming Ricky's royalties and hiding the loot. Crooked managers padded ledgers for years. Pennies here and dollars are added up to fortunes shipped to secret accounts. The will listed every company that owed him back pay stretching to his very first single. It was hard proof of daylight robbery. The payout stunned even the judge. Ricky's 4 kids jumped from panic to riches overnight, while one son walked away empty-handed, and jaws are still on the floor. Court transcripts showed decades of unpaid percentages, and companies surrendered tens of millions. Reporters called it the biggest retroactive music when they had ever seen. In October 1957, Ricky topped the Billboard album chart for 2 weeks, making him the youngest artist to do so. The triumph was no accident. Ozzy planted a fresh tune at the end of each episode, so 10 million viewers heard it before radio hosts did. When Ricky belted "I'm Walking" in April 1957, the track rocketed to number 4, and Flipside, a teenager's romance, leaped to number 2. Ozzy even refused the Ed Sullivan Show, keeping every eyeball on the family production. Then Poor Little Fool arrived. In August 1958, it became the first song ever to top Billboard's brand new Hot 100. The writer was 15-year-old Sharon Shealy. Nelson disliked releasing the song, but Imperial pressed it anyway, and radio could not stop spinning the record. It ruled for 2 weeks and crossed pop, country, and R&B lists. That smash locked Ricky Nelson into music history forever, and the wild ride had only begun. Money still pours into Ricky Nelson's estate today, and every royalty check feels like a ghostly encore. The classic keeps getting covered by new voices, yet nobody can ever steal his historic first spot on the Hot 100, and that crown is his forever. From 1957 to 1962, he stacked 20 top 40 hits, second only to Elvis, so the charts flash his name again and again. His opening blast with Imperial Records, Bebop Baby, burst past 1 million sales, and that was before any store even stocked it. Orders worth $750,000 piled up in advance, stunning executives who never dreamed a teenager could stampede cash registers like that. The ink on his deal was just as wild, promising $50,000 over 5 years plus full creative power over songs and album covers, a shocker for the era. Those early smashes never quit earning. Television spun his tunes nonstop, and by 1960 the Ricky Nelson International Fan Club boasted 9,000 chapters worldwide, proving he was not just rich but everywhere. In 1959 he leaped from stage lights to silver screens, sharing Rio Bravo with John Wayne and Dean Martin, and a Golden Globe nod floated down like confetti. Audiences clapped for his acting, yet insiders gasped at his lifestyle. Because Ricky rolled through the city in custom suits, luxury cars, and velvet rope clubs where bills seemed bottomless. Rumor had it he drew a $5,000 monthly allowance, nearly 50 grand in today's money, and every swipe revealed a growing taste for glitter. Success stuffed his pockets, yet it also steered him toward Hollywood excess with every passing week. Irony struck in 1961 when Traveling Man landed in his hands. Sam Cooke had passed on the tune, thinking it unfit, but Ricky trusted his ear and blasted the song to number 1 by April, crossing 1 million sales in weeks. Flipside Hello Mary Lou exploded too, gifting him a two-headed monster success and proving he could spy gold others missed. That single felt like the last perfect sunrise before clouds rolled in. Behind studio doors, frustration brewed. Older session players sneer at rock and roll, and some refuse to follow his beat. One even snapped, "Kid, this ain't music." The insult stung. So Ricky sacked the doubters and built a fresh band crammed with young believers chasing the pulse in his head. The overhaul cost heavy coin, from wages to gear and endless travel. Yet the reward was command, and it brought future legend James Burton into the lineup. Respect, not just rhythm, was on the line, and Ricky refused to live as a puppet any longer. Even that new freedom could not stop the tidal wave that crashed ashore in 1964. The Beatles stormed America, lit the Ed Sullivan stage on fire, and by April they owned the whole top 5, squeezing rivals to the fringe. Elvis staggered, charts flipped, and Ricky felt the chill when a single for You barely scraped the top 40, a bright warning that the magic was slipping. The British arrival did more than shuffle playlists. It rewrote every rule of pop, and yesterday's kings face a brand new battlefield. Personal storms gathered too. Ricky met 16-year-old Chris Harmon on Christmas Day 1961. While he was 21, and the press painted him in pure Hollywood gold. She was the daughter of football hero Tom Harmon and actress Elise Knox, and sister to future star Mark Harmon. So headlines crowned him a dream pair. Yet that shine masked a slow nightmare. Pressure crushed Ricky right away because father Ozzie guarded the money with iron fists while Chris, raised in comfort, craved endless luxury. To keep up, he piled on homes, cars, designer outfits, and exotic trips until his bank account wheezed. By the late 1970s, the fairy tale lay in rubble and the rocker was broke. Their wedding on April 20th, 1963, had already flashed warning lights. Chris was pregnant. Her Catholic parents demanded speed, and Ricky signed papers promising to raise the kids in their faith, though it was never his choice. He plowed through classes just to keep peace. So even the vows felt like a staged production under parental orders. Oddly, Ozzie and Harriet adored Chris after rejecting every other girlfriend, thrilled to glue the Nelson and Harmon names together, believing she was perfect for their brand. Reality cracked that pretty picture fast. Ricky, once trained to obey strict budgets, now had a partner who saw spending as sport, and when record sales cooled in the mid-1970s, the bills did not. She wanted him home. Yet touring paid the debts, so he sprinted between stages and family fights until he was stretched to breaking. Lawyers later slapped a $1 million price tag on their divorce, turning heartbreak into a fiscal crisis. Chris briefly joined the sitcom as herself for extra income, yet 2 paychecks only fueled more shopping. Agents, assistants, and accountants watched money hemorrhage, but no one slammed the brakes, and the couple spiraled deeper into red ink while love leaked away. Chris felt trapped in a plastic TV life and drifted, leaving Ricky to chase cash that vanished like smoke. In 1965, they co-starred in Love and Kisses, directed by Ozzie, a breezy tale of young newlyweds living with parents. But the script mirrored their private miseries so closely that the jokes cut like knives. Rick played a teenager, though he was 25. Critics shrugged at Chris's acting, and behind the lens their union buckled, while Ozzie mined family tension for box office laughs. By 1969, Ricky craved escape from the past and formed the Stone Canyon Band, mixing country and rock years before Nashville embraced that blend. He recruited Randy Meisner, future Eagle, and aimed for fresh ground, yet the timing was brutal. Headline arenas shrank to smoky clubs, paycheck shriveled, and Meisner quit, saying the math made no sense. Albums Rick sings Nelson, and in concert pushed creative edges but barely sold. So Ricky chased artistry, while both fame and savings slipped away. Determined to stand as a serious musician, he risked everything, and the gamble almost wrecked him. Then came the shocker on October 15, 1971 at Madison Square Garden. A rock show he expected to own, but met instead with thunderous boos. He had trimmed the Y from Ricky to mark a new era and opened with honky-tonk women to unveil fresh sound. Yet the crowd ached for old hits. Some blamed police scuffles in the stands. But Ricky heard something clearer. That change was not welcome. Crushed, he slipped backstage and watched in silence until friends begged him to return with the classics. Finally winning cheers, though the applause rang hollow. That single night splintered his spirit and left scars no encore could heal. Long after the lights dimmed, critics called that moment the hour his innocence shattered. The sting echoed through each rehearsal, raising doubts no guitar riff could smother. He kept writing anyway, pouring heartbreak into tunes that small loyal crowds cherished even when the chart stayed silent. That stubborn fire proved Ricky Nelson was fueled by grit beyond teenage sparkle, and his story still raced toward its next twist. Out of heartbreak came a shocker. In 1972, Rick Nelson poured every bruise into Garden Party and let the world hear his hurt. The lyrics felt like diary entries, raw and fearless. He sang, "You can't please everyone, so you gotta please yourself." And millions nodded because the line cut straight to real life. The single rocketed to number 6 on the Hot 100 and went gold, proving the fallen idol still had thunder. For the first time in nearly 10 years, he cracked the top 10 again, and doubters suddenly hummed along. Yet the comeback flickered. Follow-up tracks such as Palace Guard fizzled, and by 1974 his label looked lost, tossing albums like Windfall into stores only to watch them sink. County fairs, amusement parks, and guest roles on forgettable shows became his grind. MCA finally dropped him, leaving Garden Party as both triumphant banner and bittersweet goodbye. While the records cooled, his private life overheated. The one storybook marriage to Kristen Harmon crumbled into cold stares and slammed doors. Rick sprinted from stage to stage, trying to bankroll private schools, huge houses, and endless bills. The farther he traveled, the more hostile the living room became, and whisper complaints turned into nightly firefights. After yet another brutal tour in 1977, he trudged home, expecting hugs, but found the locks changed. Kristen had hauled his clothes into a rental and hunkered inside with 2 Los Angeles Rams cheerleaders, a scene that stole his breath. She claimed the stunt was for the children and blamed Rick's supposed drug use. His camp denied everything, yet the damage cracked wide and the marriage was finished. Desperate for a reboot, he bought Errol Flynn's old mansion on Mulholland Drive in 1980 for $750,000, hoping luxury might mend love. Kristen demanded he quit music and chase acting roles, but debt snarled around his ankles, forcing more tours. The mansion felt cursed. Strange noises rattled halls, lights blinked, and rumors of ghosts mixed with looming bank notices, turning the dream home into a haunted pocket drain. Divorce filings exploded in the early 80s. Kristen accused Rick of drugs and bad parenting, while he fired back about her drinking and absentee mothering. 5 soul-grinding years and $1 million in legal fees. Later, the judge finally dropped the gavel in 1982. Rick kept joint custody and owed $4,000 monthly support. But touring now felt like running on broken glass just to feed the meter. His health sagged, his smile faded, and joy seemed forever out of reach. Still, by 1985, he chased one more big swing. Needing cash and redemption, there was a catch. He hated airplanes. Buses felt too public. So he gambled on a used 1944 Douglas DC, 3 once owned by Jerry Lee Lewis, paying $118,000. Engines sputtered, gauges failed, and crew members sometimes shoved the hulking relic off lonely runways. Guitarist Bobby Neal's wife begged him to stay grounded, and bassist Patrick Woodward had already survived 2 emergency landings. September brought another engine failure that cost Rick a prime television spot. Yet he still trusted the battered wings. On New Year's Eve 1985, the plane lurched skyward after long maintenance delays, bound for a Dallas gig. Over Texas, the cabin filled with choking smoke, so thick the pilots could not read their instruments. Captain Brad Rank leaned out the side window, flying blind toward a cabin fading light. At 5:14 that afternoon, the DC, 3 clipped trees, slammed an open field just 2 miles from safe pavement and erupted. The blast scattered wreckage across 150 yards, leaving only the 2 pilots alive. Rick Nelson died at 45, alongside fiancée Helen Blair and bandmates Andy Chapin, Bobby Neal, Patrick Woodward, Rick Intveld, and sound tech Donald Clark Russell. Music lovers reeled. Another bright voice silenced hours before 1986 even began. Then the real storm rolled in. Debt wrapped around the estate like chains. Because divorce costs, unpaid taxes, and upkeep on the doomed plane pushed the books about $1 million underwater. Early reports claimed Rick left no will, and Kristen raced to seize control. For children, Tracy, Gunnar, Matthew, and Sam watched in fear as lawyers circled. Brother David, soon producer, will sign 4 months before the crash. naming only the kids as heirs and placing David in charge. Kristen fought anyway, hunting life insurance money and questioning David's authority. Courtrooms buzzed with allegations of drugs, reckless spending, and parental failure. An exhausting divorce had already burned a fortune, and now brand new files stacked sky high. While papers flew and unexpected twists surfaced, Rick had a fifth child. Eric Jude Crew, born in 1980 after a brief affair, had been proven Rick's son by blood test, yet was left out of the will. Eric's mother, George and Crew, pressed for a share, but the judge honored the document, and the boy received nothing, another wound in an already raw saga. Helen Blair's parents filed wrongful death claims. Families of fallen bandmates joined, and creditors demanded payment. The estate seemed doomed to collapse. But hidden treasure lay in the music itself. Royalties from radio, downloads, and streaming promised serious money, if anyone could pry it loose. In 2011, the Nelson heirs hit Capitol Records with a lawsuit worth up to $250 million, accusing the label of bearing unmatched income and cheating digital royalties. Old world deductions for broken vinyl had mysteriously survived into the download era, slicing off millions. Capitol refused complete audits, so the family called foul and marched to court. The case settled in 2014 for an undisclosed sum, and Capitol agreed to cleaner books. Lawyers called it landmark justice. Victory inspired another strike. In 2020, the estate sued Sony Music over international streaming, charging that internal corporate fees erased as much as 68% of money before any reached Nelson heirs. Sony blinked. Settlement terms included $12.7 million up front and a 36% jump in future streaming royalty rates. At last, the four children saw a real wealth stream from songs their father cut decades earlier, proof that legacy can outlive tragedy when someone fights for the truth.